Hello. So thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited because I have a fellow empowerment coach with me today, Helene Golombek, who is an empowerment coach who helps women reconnect with the core of who they are and guides them to having more juicy and fulfilling relationships in life. She helps them play bigger in life. I love that. In business, so that they live life on their own terms without the shoulds. That's the word, that word, and have to. She's a traveler, runner, and wine and craft beer enthusiast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here too because I really love what you do. I really love about because it's like we're many other times we think we're living our lives based on what we think we should be doing or what we have to do. So I think it's what you do is so great, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah. So I know for you, being a conscious creator of your life is very important. And that is something, and living life on your own terms something that's very important for you and is something that you definitely help women with in your coaching practice. And I'm sure you even probably you're like empowering your own friends
Yes.
by the way you live your life and they might even come to you for support or something. So tell me about your thoughts on that. And if you don't mind also sharing your own journey to being a conscious creator of your life and living life on your own terms.
Yeah. I think that my journey really started a number of years ago, and I didn't even realize that I was on the journey to the point where I am now. I just know that I started getting really excited about things like Abraham Hicks. And, if you've ever listened to that, that is all about, being the conscious creator of your life. But at the same time, like for a very long time, up until very recently, I still kind of felt like I was at the effect of what was happening around me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And within my own journey, I kind of did everything that I thought I should do. I checked all the boxes. I went to school. I got the safe corporate job. I got married. I had all of my check boxes clicked,
Yeah.
and I just woke up one day and knew that the life that I was living was not the life. That was not the life that I wanted to be living.
Mm-hmm.
And I had done everything that I thought I should do. And yet I just felt so deeply unsatisfied and unfulfilled inside. And like I said, I just recognized all of a sudden that I was like living up to other people's standards and other people's definitions and doing things because I thought it looked good or it was what other people wanted me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt that I was very much at the, kind of whims of the world, and whatever got tossed out to me is what I had to put up with, what I had to take. And then one day, I mean, it's been several years in the making now, that I just decided that I needed to take 100% responsibility for my life, right? It was no longer going to serve me to blame my parents, talk about my childhood, talk about what did or didn't happen to me. I realized that like accepting 100% responsibility for my life and where I was and who I had become in it was the only way that I was going to move forward. And like I said, I mean, that last part, especially about like the radical responsibility, that's actually something very new. And I am still on that journey, still forgiving a lot of what's happened in my past, a lot of what I've done and things that have happened to me, and really saying, I am the conscious, deliberate creator of the world, the reality in which I live. And so it's just been really interesting to me to see how my thoughts have changed, how I'm growing every single day, and things that are really starting to change for me as I have accepted that responsibility for my life instead of being able to, put the blame on other people within it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that is so important because, it's sort of like if when we spend so much time just blaming other people for our current circumstances or whatever, all it does is we remain stuck. Basically,
Yes,
we're like being the victim. I often say
absolutely.
that even, I mean, not to like, say it's okay for certain things that happen in people's lives, But I have always said that you need, in order for us to move forward, in order for us to really create the life that we want, we have to stop being the victim. We
Yeah.
have to stop blaming other people and take responsibility for our lives. So I think that's so powerful. So I'm
Yeah.
curious.
And oh, I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
was
No, no,
just going to
go
say
ahead.
something that you just said. So one of the things that I have been learning, and again, this is like within the past couple of months, is accepting what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference between accepting what's happened in the past versus condoning, right? So you can accept things that have happened in your past and where you've been without saying it's okay.
Yes.
Like that was not right what happened or what I did or what somebody else did to me, but I accept it.
Yes.
From that place of acceptance, that's what really helps you be able to move on into the next step. Because as long as you are resisting it, that saying, what you resist persists.
Persist.
So you have to get to the point of accepting it, which again is not the same as condoning it, but accepting that it's happened because it's happened. It's done. It's in your past and now move on. So that's been really big for me too.
Yes, and that is so huge, what you just said. That is such a huge piece of this because I mean, I don't know, you tell me what you think. I think sometimes whenever we use the word acceptance, I think sometimes in society, people, many times, and I think for myself, there were many years ago where I thought it meant like it's okay.
Yes.
And the thing is that no, it's just that it's what happened. And in order for us to really move forward, and I often say, even in my own coaching practice, and I know I've experienced it in my own life, and it could be just as little as, okay, I've gained weight or I've lost weight. Let me accept myself the way I am right now. Like that's my reality. That's what's going on. This is what happened. And that's how you're able to transform. That's how your transformation, I often say transformation cannot happen without acceptance.
I
So
love it. And it's so true because otherwise we're spending all this energy like railing against what's going on, railing against the reality of either we've gained weight or something that happened 5, 10, 20 years ago. Oh, well, that shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened, but it did. So let's
that
just
relationship that didn't work out, or
right, exactly.
we were cheated, or we were betrayed, or something.
Right. And so once you can say, okay, it happened, I accept it. Like you said, I do think that there is definitely a need in our society to understand like really what the difference between acceptance and condoning something is. The two are not, mutually exclusive, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say even like maybe I think sometimes people may even think that accepting is being resigned.
Yeah. And I do. I think that people think, well, if I accept it, then I appear weak.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I'm going to allow it to happen to me again. I think that's the other big thing. People are afraid that if they accept it, I think acceptance and forgiveness almost go hand in hand too, right?
Yeah.
Because, you feel like, well, if I don't hold on to this, if this isn't something deep within me, then it's going to happen again. Or again, I seem weak or, whatever thoughts that people might have around it. And in truth, the only person you're hurting ever is yourself.
Yes,
right.
Definitely.
And so, right. So if you, have these dreams for living a life different than what happened in the past, it doesn't help you to hold on to that energy. The only way to have a different outcome is to let that go.
Yes.
And then that's when you'll be able to experience something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So, so I'm curious for you. Do you mind sharing with us what was that moment like, or maybe one thing, maybe there were many things happening. Like, what was something that was going on in your life at that moment where you were like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I need to stop blaming other people, or I need to really take 100% responsibility. Like you said, you're still on that journey. I know I am. And I think we're always going to be in that journey in some way because we're all a work in progress. It's a journey. There's no destination. But was there something that really, that kind of like woke you up, or something that was going on and you were just like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Something has to change.
So the first really big defining thing that happened for me was I had been married and my marriage ended. And truthfully, my marriage ended mostly because of actions that I took while I was in that marriage.
Okay.
And at that, like when my marriage ended and, we separated, I just knew that I could not continue to be the same person that I had been being in my relationships up to that point. Because actually, even before I got married, I was engaged before that.
Mhm.
And I just kind of had this awakening. I really hurt my husband, my now ex-husband.
Mhm.
And I just knew that I couldn't be responsible for hurting somebody that way again.
Mhm.
And I just knew that if I really wanted to experience something different than what I had experienced in relationships up until that point, I recognized the common denominator. It was me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, this isn't about these guys that you were in the relationship. You may have been choosing them for whatever reason, but
Mhm.
ultimately, at the end of the day, there's like one common thread through all of them, and that's you. And you keep experiencing the same thing in these relationships. And that was when I was like, okay, something has to change and it has to be me. And that's when I started to really do a lot of the deep internal work, some of the deep conscious work that I had never done up until that point before.
Mhm.
And really, that's what led me to doing the coaching that I do now, is because I see how just looking at that one area of my life, right, that the relationship aspect really was able to transform how I showed up and who I was able to be, which has now led me into, really looking at other like family relationships. So not just like romantic relationships, but family relationships and friendships, and what I was doing with my life in terms of my career. Because like I said, I was in corporate,
Mhm.
and I always knew that that was not where I was meant to be. I always knew that that was not what my purpose on life was.
Yeah.
But so I started to really do a lot of that work, and just got really deep with myself, which I hadn't allowed myself to be before.
Mhm.
And now I've been in a relationship, actually like a month from yesterday or something, will be 7 years. And
Wow.
it is a completely different relationship than anything that I've experienced before. And, I will give myself credit for that, because I know what it took to get me to be able to have this relationship versus what I've had in the past. So, yeah, just that was a very big defining moment for me, definitely. And that was like, I don't even know. I think that was about 9 years ago.
Mhm.
And probably the first few months after we separated, I was just kind of in this shell-shocked place. But I would say probably for the last 8 years or so, 7.5, 8 years, I've like really been really on this journey of figuring out who Helene is and what I want.
Wow, that's so, so powerful because like you said, that is the thing. And I think that's why so many of us sometimes, we just keep repeating the same patterns in our relationships, or even it could be in careers or whatever, is because, it takes a lot of courage to be like, okay, I'm the common denominator here. In
Yes.
order for things to change, I have to change, So I really commend you for like, really choosing to do that type of work. And like you said, you are seeing the result in
Yeah.
your relationship and the, other areas of your life. So that is so, so powerful. So I'm curious, as we talk about being a conscious creator of your life and living life on your own terms, how do you keep yourself in alignment to the life that you're creating with yourself? Especially, when we talk about the law of attraction, I know you talked about Abraham Hicks. One of the things with any manifestation or whatever it is, like I'm a student of A Course in Miracles, choosing love over fear, with all of these things that we want, that we are desire and we're creating, we have to also make sure that we are taking action and having thoughts that are in alignment with what we're creating and what we're intending to manifest and experience in our life. So I'm curious for you, how do you keep yourself in alignment?
Yeah, well, a lot of it is just being very conscious of it. And, again, I will say that truthfully, I think that this has really changed for me over the past maybe 6 or 7 months even, just getting really, because like I've heard for years, being aware of what you're thinking, being aware of what your thoughts are. And I'm like, oh yeah, and I've really kind of brushed that off in a lot of ways. But
Mhm.
as I've been growing my coaching business and really working on myself. First of all, I always say that if you are looking to do any kind of personal development, forget therapy, start your own business, because that brings everything up. And if you're going to be successful, and I'll be honest, I can't take credit for that. I think it was Becky Dixon who actually said that. I think she's the one who I originally heard say that. Yeah. But it just brings up so much of your stuff. And if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to take a look at it in order to move beyond it. But I really would say that in the past, number of months, I've become very aware of my thoughts and how I'm thinking. And I've always considered myself a very optimistic person. And I'm starting to realize that there's a difference between optimistic and positive, because one of the things that I've realized is that I can see the silver lining in a lot of situations, but I on my day-to-day thinking, tended to be very negative and very scarcity focused, very lack-minded thinking. Okay. And so I have become just, I kind of step back, and now this is something else another mentor, Maru, has said, grab the popcorn and just become the observer of your life. And when things happen, not always necessarily reacting, but like really just being able to sit back and look at it and just say, why is this happening? What is this here to teach me? And I'm really just now, I think, starting to get the hang of that after having practiced it for several months. But so that's the first thing is, not necessarily always having to react right away, but just being able to sit back. And it does take awareness, and it does take, we're so conditioned to react and think fast and, be busy and be on the go. And to just be able to take that deep breath and say, okay, I see what's happening. Why is this happening? What is this here to teach me? So just becoming very aware of what I'm thinking in different situations, being able to take that 2-second pause that I have never been able to do in my life before now. I've started to get really into tapping recently, EFT. That seems to help me, especially when I'm feeling very anxious, like really shift the energy quickly. I definitely like to dance, and I know you do too. I know this is like right up there for you.
You know that.
There is something in dancing, right? Like
yes,
when
there is something.
That negativity coming on and just like putting on a song that makes you feel good and just moving your body. That's amazing. So I totally get why you're all about that. Yeah. And there was something else, but it's just like really focusing on what I want and not focusing on what I don't want. And again, I think societal or society has just kind of programmed us to like live in this fear and, always be constantly thinking about the negative, and really retraining yourself to think about what could go right, what's going right, what do I want, not what do I not want. That's been really key too. And, again, it's retraining your brain. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yes, no, definitely. And, I have to say what you said, it was very, in terms of like, that's what I heard is being aware.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I think sometimes we may be thinking, okay, well, it's like, I remember somebody said, okay, that doesn't, when you're like practicing the law of attraction and, that doesn't mean that, oh my God, I can't have a negative thought.
Right.
Because then, we're human, exactly. I don't know if there's one person who can say, or maybe they are, maybe the Dalai Lama, I don't know, but it's just that, I'm sure they didn't get there overnight. It's right. Really, and I think for me, that's what's been, and I'm still like working on it, is really being aware. Yeah. And I think that after a while, when we start doing those, that deep inner work that people like you and I have been doing, is that we've become aware of our thoughts. Because I know for me, I think there were times where I'd just be, I wasn't even thinking, like, it's just, oh, that's just the way I am, or that's just what I was thinking. But now, exactly what you're saying, and what you said, that Maru, which I've worked with Maru too, is that it's really, being, it's kind of like being a spectator of your thoughts and not doing anything with it. So I love it, because that's how you catch it. There's no like magic where, okay, no more negative thoughts, none of that. It's just being aware and really looking, and I know for me, it's sort of like what you were saying, we're often, unfortunately, like we've been raised, like just the other day, somebody was telling me, whenever things are going right, things are going to go wrong. It's
Right.
like we're expecting things to go wrong. And I remember once, Iyanla Van Zandt, I don't know if you're familiar with her, she said, we don't get what we want. We get what we expect. And I have to say, when she said that, I was like, this is so true. And often we're actually expecting something that is not what we want.
Right.
We're expecting the opposite, and then no wonder we get it.
Exactly.
So I think it's doing the work of like, change let's expect what we're actually seeking, without, of course, not being attached to it,
Yeah. And that's really important too. But I do think that there is just this, and I don't know where it comes from, but just this idea that waiting for the other shoe to fall. Like, I feel like there's so many sayings, right? That it's like, don't count your chickens before they hatch. And, I'm sure we could come up with a million more, but it's just like, and it's all fear-based, and it's all like living in this idea that we can't have it good. It's not supposed to be good all the time. Everything has to be struggle. And I grew up, I'm in my 40s. And so like, that's been my mindset for 40 plus years. And now here I am, like, working actively to change that. And just seeing sometimes the thoughts that run through my head, it's, I'm getting to the point now where I can start laughing about it. And like I thought for so long that I was such a positive person that I was like, well, I don't have to check out my thoughts, because, I'm the person that people come to when they're going through a bad situation, because I'm going to make them feel better. Like, I'm the positive one. But I realized, whoa, no, I was not having positive, abundant mindset thoughts at all. It was so lack and, scarcity. And just seeing that in itself was like, if that's all I learned in 2017, then, I'll consider it a good year. But I know that there's a lot more good coming. Yeah.
No, definitely. And I know for me, I used to do that, where it's like, okay, a relationship, something's going well, and you're like, okay, when is that thing gonna go, south?
Exactly.
Because it's sort of like, oh, this is too good to be true.
Right.
So, and I wanted to say, before I move forward with what you said about, forget therapy, start your own business. I don't know if you've heard of Natalie Lussier. I actually found out about her when I did B School with Marie Forleo, and she says being an entrepreneur, the entrepreneurship is like one of the best, if not the best, personal development school.
Yep.
And I have to say, hands down, it's so true, because all of your stuff comes up.
Yes.
Because I keep thinking about it. I mean, I don't know, maybe, again, could it be that for you and I, maybe the corporate world was not our stuff? I don't know. But it's just that when I was working, I didn't really feel like my personal growth journey, like all of my stuff my money mindset, all of those things for me, I didn't feel like they were, like I needed that, and we're now in business. It's like, as I'm growing, as I'm learning, it's all connected to me being, having my own business, growing my business, becoming a bird. Like, it's just, so definitely, I mean, I really think so. It is.
And it's not to say that people can't, have growth when they're in a corporate job, but I do feel like it's kind of easier to hide.
Yes, it's definitely,
it's, you have your tasks and have your goals, and it's just completely different though than when you're, as an entrepreneur, reaching out to people, really putting yourself out there so much differently than you do when you're in a corporate job. And, I did grow and I did learn a lot when I was in my corporate position, but at the same time, this is like accelerated growth. This is like,
you have
to, and right. And also it's like, you're either out there bringing in the business or you're not eating, it's very different mindset.
Yes. And that's what I was going to say exactly, is that because you're the face of your business, you can go and work for somebody, and, you do your thing or whatever, but it's not the same when and basically you're your mental, emotional, and physical state determines the how your business is going.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, if you're if something, so because their company is not going to fall apart if something happens to
Right.
you.
If you go into work every day like with a bad attitude, the business is probably still going to run, especially because like I worked for a lot of really big businesses, and their business was not going to be necessarily impacted by my my low energy, but my personal business is. If that's the energy that I'm bringing out into the world, then people feed off of that, and that definitely impacts my business personally.
Yeah,
So
definitely, definitely. So I'm curious, what is your message for women who are on the path to getting to know who they really are, which is something that I know that you do? Because in order for you to live your to create, to be a conscious creator of your life and to live your life on your own terms, you have to know, who am I? What is it that matters to me? What do I stand for? What do I want to, what type of life do I want to have? So in order, so what is your message to these women who are on that path of like getting to know who they are, and and who are like they're seeking, looking at, okay, what are the desires that they want in their lives? What would be your message to them?
I think it really starts with questions, and asking yourself those questions. And I think that even just as you were asking me this question, you put some good questions in there, right? But it's really asking themselves those types of questions. And first of all, kind of taking stock of where they are, looking at where they are in their life, and then looking at the areas of their life, whether it's finances, relationships, career, health, spirituality, looking at all of the different aspects of their life, and then really kind of doing an assessment to set, and that sounds, oh my God, so boring, but that's the word I'm going to stick with for right now. But just the kind of thing, like, how do I feel about my physical health? How do I feel about my spirituality? How do I feel about my family relationships? How do I feel about my friendships? How do I feel about my romantic relationship? And just really, because here's the thing, right? We're like all pretty much on autopilot.
Yeah.
And, we could, I'm sure, have a whole conversation around the brain and how the brain likes to be efficient. And, so much of what happens or what we do throughout the day is like just based on our subconscious thinking, because our brain, again, it doesn't really like to think. It doesn't really want to think. It just knows what it wants to do, and you do it. And so we just fall into these habits and never really kind of shake ourselves a little bit to say, wait a minute, my life is passing me by. And am I even happy with what's going on in it? So I think it just, it does take some courage, like you had mentioned earlier. But to, if you really want to get to the end of your life and be able to look back and think, wow, I lived as full out as I could have and experienced everything I wanted to, and just really lived a life that I'm proud of. At a certain point, you just have to be able to look around you and see what you've created up to this point. Again, because like recognizing that you are the conscious creator, and if things aren't great, you've created that for some reason. And if things are wonderful, you've created that as well, and that's like a hard pill to swallow sometimes too, is like recognizing that we don't just create the good, we create the bad too. Right. But again, when you're able to take on that personal responsibility, and that is like a place of such incredible power, because now you're saying, okay, well, I get to create what I want. And now I don't like what I created, pivot, I'm going to create something better for myself moving forward. So, but I do think it has to come from a place of really being able to look at what you've created up to this point, and recognize where, if you're not at a 10 in that area, okay, well, let's start asking ourselves some questions. Why, what can you do differently? What do you actually want to experience versus what you have experienced up until this point? And so for me, it's just like the courage to look at where you are, instead of just like blindly going through your day and kind of putting your head down and, checking off those boxes and getting through the day, but saying, where am I and where do I want to be? And what do I actually have to do to get me there. And I think like that's where our role as a coach really comes in, is helping people look at that, because most of us on our own are not going to look at it. You know, most of us are going to be like, oh, well, you know, someday. But for those people who are really committed and who are really like, nope, my time is now. I'm done with what I've created up until this point, and I'm really ready for something different. Then that's, you know, where we come in and we can help ask those questions and hold them accountable to looking at where they are and helping them come up with the right questions for themselves. But then, of course, most importantly, is once we figured it out, figuring out what that map forward looks like, and then holding them accountable to taking those steps to get them where they want to be. Because again, it's okay. So it's hard enough to look at it, and then you've looked at it and you're like, whoa, there's a big gap, and I'm not even sure how I'm going to go from here to here. And, you know, again, that's where we come in and we're like, all right, let's figure this out together. And it just feels less scary. And especially because of where we are, you and I, and things that we have been able to create in our lives, you know, we've been through some of this before. And we can say, look, I know it's hard. It's not always easy, but you can do it. I've done it, and I'm here to hold your hand and help you through it. And when it does get too much, you know, I'll be here to, you know, kind of be able to walk you through that. So I think, like I said, that's really where it starts, is like being able to take that honest look and then asking yourself the questions that you haven't asked yourself up until now.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yes, I love what you shared, especially, I mean, well, because actually I was thinking as you were talking, and I was like, you know, and then you said it right there, is that I know for me, there was a time where, you know, I would hear people like Dr. Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay saying, everything that you have in your life, you know, even now, if there's an area of my life where I'm like, I'm not happy with where it's at, and it's like, well, I created that.
Yep.
For some of us, it's pretty tough to get there, you know, because we're like, and that's why sometimes we either don't want to look at it,
right, or
we tend to blame somebody else, you know, because it takes courage. And I love what you shared about how that's where we come in. Someone like us come in, because for many, you know, if not for most, you know, they need that type of support in order to not remain in that state of like, oh my God, like I created this, and then stay in that, like, instead of, it could be victim, but not victim blaming someone else. It could even be like blaming themselves and then not moving forward. And that's where working with a supportive partner, like a coach, really helps you, you know, to not remain, you know, I often say there's a difference between blame and responsibility. And I think often people hear responsibility as blame. And when you're in blame, there's shame and you remain stuck, you know? So really, really love that piece that you said, because that's why I know for me, that's why sometimes it's like, I can't do this on my own, and I go and work with someone, and I've worked with people, because you can really, you know, there are things that we just can't do on our own, you know? So love that.
Yeah, and we sometimes have blinders on too.
Yes.
Right. You know, when you're in it, it's hard to see the, you know, the forest for the trees, because like you're so deep in it.
Yes.
And when you find the right person to work with who can really gently, you know, help you to see those things that you can't see for yourself, then that's when you're able to really move past it.
Yeah, definitely. So what are your thoughts on empowerment, specifically empowering women, which I know you know, and how does it show up in your work? Because I mean, as an empowerment coach, so I'm curious as to your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think that it's really, you know, and I don't mean to like bash society or men or any group in particular, but I do feel that a lot of women don't really recognize their own self-worth, because I do feel like it is nearly impossible what society wants us to be, right? We're supposed to be, you know, what is that saying? It's like, you know, a boss in the boardroom, but then you're supposed to be like, you know, sexy for your mate or your partner or whatever. And it's like we're supposed to have all these different personas, and we're supposed to be a great mom, and we're supposed to have all this patience and take care of, you know, everybody. And it's just, and don't forget to also be perfect looking, right? A perfect looking according to society standards, and be really nice, because don't let anybody think that, you have an opinion about something, because then they might think that you're, I don't know if I can curse, but being bitchy. So it's just like, it's impossible. It is like absolutely impossible what women are supposed to live up to be. And so for me, empowerment is really just helping women recognize their true worth, regardless of anything that's happened to them in the past, anything they've done in the past, anything that, they feel like they haven't, or they fell short on, like living up to somebody else's standards, and really helping them define for themselves what some of these things mean, right? Because, I have this conversation with my family, because my dad, and not to get off on a whole subject, but like, you have certain expectations of people based on what their title is, or what their label is. And so my dad does not very often live up to like the stereotypical, or what like I wish that he would as a dad, right? And me and my siblings have this conversation all the time, and I'm just like, but now I need to recognize that my dad's going to define for himself what that definition looks like, right? And so me as his daughter, now I have to define, like, what does being a good daughter mean? What does that mean to me? Forget like what his expectations maybe are of me as a daughter. How do I want to define that for myself? How do I want to define being a good girlfriend? How do I want to define being a good friend or sister or aunt, or again, like all these countless labels that I live under? And so to me, like, that's really important, is defining it for yourself. And if my definition doesn't match up with what somebody else would hope for me to have, as that definition in that role, then we can either talk about it, or, like maybe for certain friendships, maybe that doesn't work out because like I don't live up to the expectation of what a friend is. Mm-hmm. So, and you have to be okay with that too. But again, I think that for me, like, empowerment is just really becoming aware, answering questions for yourself, and not just, blindly saying, well, as a daughter, this is what I should be doing. As an aunt, this is what I should be doing. Okay, but what do I want that to look like for me, for Helene, as an aunt, or as a friend, or as a girlfriend, or whatever it might be. So, yeah, like that's what it comes down to, is just really looking at that for yourself and making those decisions for yourself. And then again, as I was saying, just recognizing that you're worthy just because you're here. There's like no checklist that we need to complete in order to be worthy. There's nothing that we need to do or be or have. We are worthy simply because we are here and we are doing the best that we can. And I think that just gets lost so often, and we just walk around, like we're walking around surrounded by people who just feel worthless. And it's just, like, to me, that's really important to me, is like helping women get back that sense of self-worth and confidence and knowing who they are.
Yeah. No, I love what you said, and I feel like you really tied it into what you do, which is that, living life on your own terms. Because what I heard you say is that women being empowered is actually, living their lives on, being who they want to be.
Right.
Showing up, like being the partner that they are choosing to be.
Right.
And being the daughter that they want to be, being the boss lady they want to be, being the career, whatever, the sister, the friend. And obviously, and I like how you said, if they don't match with somebody, there can be a conversation. So it's not like, okay, like that's just the way I am. But also there are things that we don't negotiate. There are things like, basically there are certain boundaries, there are certain things that if it doesn't work, then that relationship may just need to end.
Yes.
So I love that, because it's very, as you were sharing that, like, wow, it's very much in tune to what you do. You want the women to choose, what type of partner do I want to be? Who do I want to, how do I want to show up as a mom? Because how sometimes people have labels on how a mom is supposed to be.
Right.
Because I know, you know, there
Good.
are people.
How many billions of moms in the world? Every single one of them is supposed to be the same exact way because she's mom. It
Yes.
just doesn't even make any sense.
Yes. And I have to say, you know, there was a time in my life, I don't remember if it was when I was close to 30 or where I had this thing where I was like, well, at a certain age, you're not supposed to wear shorts anymore.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to wear shorts out. And I was like, where did that come from? And
Right.
now, I mean, I'm 40. I'm in my 40s. I'm like, I wear shorts.
Wear shorts.
You know, so it's sort of like, but then I was like, and then the other day I was thinking about it. I'm like, where did that come from? Like, why did I even pay attention to this? So yeah, so I love what you shared. I love it because it's really being your own person and choosing who you want to be and
Yes.
being that person and knowing that it's not going to work for some people. Yes, there are certain things that we can, you know, we can work, we can do certain things about, and then there are certain things like, no, that's just me. Don't ask me to be somebody different. So I love
Exactly. And like that, I mean, you can't probably like end the relationship necessarily of like daughter or sister, you know, like there's some relationships that most of us are going to have, but that's where, you know, being confident in yourself enough to be able to say, this is how I'm willing to show up in this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I am not going to change it. These, like you had even said the word boundaries, you know, like these are my boundaries within this relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so you now decide how you want to interact with me, knowing that this is how I'm going to keep showing up.
Yeah. And I think, you know, for many of us, and I know for me, that's something that I struggled with for a long time because I wasn't raised with boundaries. Like my family, people didn't talk about boundaries. And even now, you know, sometimes the way that I see people function, and they might even think I'm selfish or I'm because I set boundaries or something. But yeah, it's, you know, you know, in intimate relationship, in any relationship, and just like even on our business, we need boundaries. Healthy relationships have boundaries.
Yes.
And
And healthy people have boundaries in all areas of their lives.
Yes.
And it's not selfish and it's not, you know, again, to use that word, it's not bitchy. It's now there's ways that you go about setting them and communicating them that, you know, maybe some people can take the wrong way.
Yeah.
But when you learn how to do it with grace and you know, with care and love for the other person, everybody wins.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So what do you stand for in life and why?
Yeah. So what do I stand for in life? I mean, I really do stand for fun. Number one, like, I don't know, like to me, fun is just, yes, that is one of my number one priorities in life is having fun. You know, I think that for too long, I took myself too seriously. I took life too seriously. I took kind of everything too seriously. And you know what? We are here to have fun. We are here to prosper and be abundant and live in joy and love, right? And not in that fear. So I really stand for being who you are, being unapologetically who you are, really learning how to do that in a way that feels good to you and also can feel good to the other people in your life, right? It's not like you have to go through and set fire to everything that's happened or every person that's in your life, but really learning how to just be who you want to be and stop being so afraid of other people's opinions and concerns and, you know, all these fears that go through our head, like these stupid thoughts that go through our head that at the end of the day, 99% of them don't even come true anyway. So yeah, like I think it's really about getting to know who you are, having fun, going out, spreading the joy, spreading the love, being the best person that you can be, and in turn helping others, you know, show them that they can be the best person that they can be.
Yeah, I love that, definitely. What are your thoughts on life purpose? Do you have one? And if you do, would you mind sharing it with us?
Yeah, so I do think that we all are here for a reason, for sure. Some of us, it's not as obvious, or, you know, we don't spend the time to kind of get quiet with ourselves and figure that out. I think that I am here to just show women a different way of living and to let them know, and I think too, it's really about forgiving yourself and letting women in particular know again. And I had mentioned this earlier. It's not about what's happened to you or what you've done in the past, but what you take from those situations and what you decide to do with that, how you decide to help that turn your life around, because you can continue down the road of making the same mistakes and not really ever learning from anything, or feeling really bad and guilty and shameful about things that have happened, or kind of putting yourself, making that stand and saying, okay, this is who I've been, or this is what has happened at this point up into my life. And now I'm ready to do something different and really change the outcome from here on forward. So, I think my purpose is to help women sometimes forgive themselves or forgive other people, and just let them know that it doesn't matter. We can look at the past mistakes. We can learn from them. I feel like as long as you've learned from it, it was not a mistake. It wasn't something to be ashamed about. But like I said, if you kind of keep repeating the same thing and you're never learning anything from it, well, then maybe we need to take a look at something different. But yeah, that's to me what my life purpose is, just helping people stand up for who they are, reconnect with who they are, warts and all, and saying, this is me, I love me, and you're either going to love me as who I am, or you can move on, and that's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I love it. Totally love it. What do you believe the world needs more of? And if it had it, it would make a huge difference in our world.
Definitely love. That love, compassion, and listening.
Yeah.
I think that, and it really all comes back to love, but I just think that we are so divided in so many ways right now. And that's all because people rely on fear. They don't make an effort to get to know people that are different than them, that have had different experiences than them. And again, it all comes back to fear versus love. But I just think, if we could just really look at each other and recognize that we are all, having this experience together, we're all here for a reason. We are all the same, regardless of how we look or where we grew up or what we believe. And, I need to take that advice too.
Yeah, I know. I forget that sometimes right. I forget as well.
Right. It's very easy for me to agree with people who agree with me, and it's very hard for me to listen to people who have opposing points of view. And that is something that over the past few months, I have really been trying to open myself more to, is recognizing that not everybody did have the experience that I did growing up. And therefore, they have a different point of view. But I just think, like I said, ultimately, if we could all just get back to love, Marianne Williamson has that book, Return to Love. Like if we could all return to love, it really would help. It would help everything. I think that's the answer.
Yeah, no,
that doesn't sound corny or trite, and other people probably say it, but it's really true.
No, and you know what it is? I love how you said, you said love, you said compassion, and you said listening. And like you said, it all comes down to love. Because really, you can't have compassion. You can't have love without compassion.
Right.
You can't have listening without compassion. So I think in some way, even if somebody says acceptance, like one of my things is that we, tolerance, acceptance, but all of those are love.
Yep.
And I don't know, some people may not agree with me. I really think that in some way we are living the times that we're living in right now because we are being called to be more loving.
I agree with you 100%.
There's a lesson, there's an assignment, there's a blessing in disguise to everything. Maybe tough, we may not be happy about it, but I think that's what it is. In some way, I think we came here on earth to love more, and things like what we're currently experiencing. And I'm sure many things happen in the past too, and we've been called to love. So that's That's our assignment.
That's right. And I do think that the consciousness of the planet is changing.
It is.
And I think it's been happening over the past, however long.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that we're kind of in this accelerated place now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we're going to, whoever's alive in the next few hundred years will look back on this time and, this is kind of really the tipping point. So, well, I don't know what you believe in future lives or whatever, maybe be here in another form or whatever it would look like. But yeah, you might be here to see how it all plays out. So it is interesting.
We're definitely being called to step up,
Yes.
So, okay. So let's, that was done with the questioning part. I'm going to give you the opportunity. Let us know, let my audience or, whoever's watching us, let them know how will they find out more about you, your website. Are you on social media so they can connect with you?
Yeah, so everything's pretty much under my name right now, which of course is not the easiest, but I know that you'll have it spelled out.
Yeah, I will.
Underneath our talk. So it's HeleneGolombek.com. I'm not even going to spell it because, like I said, I'm sure you'll have it written out.
Yeah.
It's Facebook. It's Helene Golombek. So kind of my whole world is under my name, which, thanks mom and dad for such an easy name to go through life with. But I'm sure you face the same thing yourself.
Yeah. No, this was great. So great. So yeah, so definitely go to, I'm going to have everything on there in writing. So HeleneGolombek.com, and on Facebook, she's under Helene Golombek as well. Are you on any other social media platform?
I'm on Instagram as Coach Helene.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So right now, just Instagram. I had Twitter, but I really, don't do anything.
Okay, great. Any current offers you want people to know or anything? Just, I want to make sure.
I do have a freebie, and it is 3 questions to ask yourself to living a life you love.
Great.
And it gives you space on there to be able to write in, the answers to the questions. So it goes a little bit into what we talked about earlier and just gives people like a really good place to start and ask themselves some questions to kind of be that catalyst to start them thinking about some things.
I love that. And they can get that on your website, right?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So thank you so much, Helene. This was really great. Thank you for saying yes to joining me today. And thank you everyone for listening. Do you have any final words that you want to share?
Well, first, I just want to thank you. Thank you for asking me to be part of this and being such a fun interviewer, right? And I guess the only other thing that I would want to say is, it can seem scary, especially if you've been living your life a certain way up until this point, to decide to make change. But, as somebody who has done it and has seen just how much it has changed everything about my experience, I can only really ask you to try it, to do it, and just see how much different your life could be once you kind of get over that initial feeling of being scared. So yeah, just enjoy your life, go out and have fun.
Yes, and I totally agree. And take it from her and I, it's a tough journey, but it's totally worth it because it feels really good, right?
Absolutely.
Being yourself, feeling empowered, it feels liberating. Yes, it can be scary, but more than anything, it feels liberating and it feels good. So go for it. Okay, so thanks everyone. Thank you again, Helene, and sending you all love and light. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.